Well, good morning. Welcome to another session of Dancing with Change and Facility Management. And I am very excited actually to be having this conversation with this very interesting consultant, Jerry DiCola. He's the founder of Inspiring Consultant Services, where he helps organizations strengthen operations, evaluate facilities teams, and achieve sustainable results. All really important things in facility management. He's got over 2 decades of experience across a very diverse field, legal, pharmaceutical, financial, technology sectors, and he's managed complex international projects and built high-performing FM teams. So really excited to jump into a conversation with Jerry to learn more about what that looked like applied to his experience. So this is quite a lot of different organizations, which is
Yes.
similar to a lot of facility management experience. I think I mentioned to you in our earlier conversations that facility managers are really generalists because while
Yeah.
they're experts in a number of fields, they have to connect the dots between all of these types of work and organization and
Mhm.
the things that we do. So tell us a bit about that.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. First of all, Kathleen, thank you very much for letting me to be a part one of your guests. I appreciate the opportunity. And you're absolutely right. And I've been a part of facility management for 20 years. But some of that connection that I have comes prior to facility management. So prior to facility management, I was in human resources for over 10 years. I owned a small deli and catering business with my wife for over 7 years. So I was a small business owner. So, and I also was in sales. So I started out as a sales trainer and a sales coordinator, sales manager for a uh, HVAC company for a number of years before I got into facility management. So you kind of take that all together, you blend it, and you kind of mix it up a little bit, and you become a facility manager. Because when I became a facility manager, I had no idea what a facility manager was. When I took the position as a in the law firm, someone said to me, "What does a facility manager do?" I said, "I don't know, but I'll figure it out." And that's exactly what I did. And actually, I remember that someone when I was in the legal industry, and about 2 years into it, someone said to me, "Now, how did you become facility manager?" I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "Well, did you go to school for it?" No. Did you come from the industry? No. Then how did you do it? I said, "Well, someone hired me." And that's how I became a facility manager. So, and that's how I started. And then I became an IFMA member very quickly when I first started. And just through education is a big part of how I became, I grew my career in facility management. But you're right. All those experiences prior to facility management and my experiences in facility management and as an instructor. Because for the last 18 of the 20 years of facility management, I've been an instructor. And so I've been fortunate that I have learned from I'm going to guess 500 plus people I've encountered over the last 18 years about their experiences. Because, from an HR perspective, one of my gifts is my ability to ask questions and inquire about their experiences and to get them to open up and tell stories. So I have learned from their experience as well as me sharing my experiences with them. So I have learned a lot from them just as much as I've given to them. So it's not just facility management. I've learned about different industries, about different growths that people have had, about personal experiences that I've had. All that together has allowed me to become a person who's learned more than just facility management.
Well, I think that you're making such a really good point there because interacting with people, no matter what the surrounding organization is such an important skill set. And I think it's something that needs to be continuously worked at as a continuous improvement sort of endeavor, and
Yes,
certainly exploring conversations with different types of people is part of that.
right. Absolutely. And you don't know what their challenges are until you ask the question,
Right.
right? So anytime you're going to partner or encounter or be challenged by someone, you need to begin to ask the questions. And you that's how you start. That's how you start to collaborate, is by asking the first and second question, because people are guarded and they're going to give you the answer they want to give you the first time. And you have to look at them and understand you're not giving me the right answer. You have to pause and say, I think there's something more than they're not lying to you, they're giving you what they want you to hear.
It's establishing trust, I think, really.
It is. It is. And part of that trust is built way before you ask them that question,
Hmm.
by giving them, by asking them, how can I partner with you? Way before you ask them for something that you need them to do, that trust begins to build. So that's how my teams have been successful, because I've been able to build that team, that partnership with other groups, and then I bring my teams into it, and then they become partners with those groups as well.
So is that how you train folks then? That you build these partnerships and then run participants through different ways of actually interacting?
Absolutely. And that's how also I do how I when I hire people with the ability to be able to, who have the ability to interact with other people as well. I hire people with job knowledge, but I also have people who have the ability to interact with other people as well. Because if you think about it from a facility management standpoint, most things that we do in we can train most people to become facility managers, me included, right? I just said I didn't know what a facility manager even was when I started 20 years ago. And you can train them, but you can't train personality. You can't train people who don't have the experience to be able, or the ability to interact with other people, who have an inquisitive mind, who have the notion of how can I help people.
Right.
So, if you hire the right people, which brings me back to my HR experience, then you can, it's easy to help coach them, to help them engage with the people around them, the HR people, the IT people, and the security people. And soon enough, they become the fan favorites, and they like dealing with those people better than they like dealing with me, which is fine.
That's a success factor, I
That's success.
think.
That's when they're like, I really like dealing with Danny, or I like dealing with Tim, or I like dealing with Bobby. Great, that's fantastic, because that's what I want them to do.
So that's a good way to teach teamwork, I'm sure, is just to get people to the point where they're really enjoying interaction. Because you're right, it's certainly been my experience as well that sometimes it's much easier to, strangely enough, train people on technical things. And it's the
Mhm.
people interaction things that are the challenge for the most part.
Right, because once that partnership, they have that relationship, you know, when you deal with it, when you have an issue, right? You're Many times people come to your door and they say, we have an issue. And you say, okay, what's the issue? And they say, well, the problem is X. Okay, what have you done about X? That's it. That's all I got. Well, when you train them to ask the second and third and fourth question, Now they come with solutions,
Right.
and that builds the team. Then they become more competent. Then they become more integral in their team. Now you can say, let me open the door so you can finish that transaction, or that let me help you get to the right people who can help you finish that or help that person or whatever the case may be.
So this is interesting because I think for goodness, forever almost, organizations have been very hierarchical, right? Where there's the interaction has been, you know, a pyramid of the boss at
Mhm.
the top, command and control, you do, you do, you do, and then
Right,
just trickling down the ranks.
right.
Are you seeing that start to change where you're seeing teams come together, like groups of people interacting and collectively analyzing and solving problems? Or is it still a fair bit of command and control?
Command and control is still, I would still say, is the predominant. But for the organizations that I've walked into and I've been able to tweak it a little bit, the people I've interacted with, there's resistance in the beginning because they're afraid of the change.
They don't trust.
Until I can show them that I'm the safety net
Right.
and I'm not going to let them fall.
Right.
And I believe in them and that they can handle more than what they're actually been given. And I can show them that they have more to offer than what they've been given in the past. It's like springtime. They begin to blossom. And it's amazing how much they take off sometimes because someone believed in them just by saying, I believe in you. Is
Right.
amazing what they can do. It's a lot depends on the culture of the organization. That
Ah,
has,
yes.
that's a big part of it. If the culture is not conducive to it, it makes it more challenging to do it, to build that team environment. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it takes more effort to do it. And you may not get everyone on board, but you may get a few.
So sustained change for sure. And you're right, culture is so very difficult to change.
Mhm.
I mean, it's built typically by the people in the organization over time.
Right.
And so it
Mhm.
takes the people in the organization to change who
Right.
actually have not just authority, but impact, right? Because you don't necessarily need authority to have impact
No,
to make change.
no, no, but just by having the personality and the perseverance, you can have the ability to make change.
Right.
Right.
So have you found that encouraging people in kind of the rank and file
Mhm.
to take initiative, to seek things out, to offer decisions, has that kind of freed them up to act more, I don't know, more as a team and to make decisions and feel confident that they are actually contributing to the organization as opposed to always seeking the okay from the boss?
Absolutely. So, for example, I'll give you an example. When I was in the pharmaceutical industry, the I started out as a sole. I'm sorry. There was myself and there was a facility coordinator. And over the 7 years, it was myself and the coordinator. And by the time we finished, and we started with about roughly 53,000 square feet of space. And when I left roughly 7 years later, uh, we had over 1.5 million square feet of space.
Wow, that's big growth.
And we had a lot of growth. And we were with 1.5 million square space. We had property management company. We had 55 people who were part of our overall team. But the core facility management team by that time had grown in skill set and were with us for several years. And the core people had grown to the point where one individual who started as a outside contractor is became he became part of the inside team. And when the company was bought out several years later, he became a critical person in their manufacturing industry from a facility management standpoint. So he flourished in that area. There was one person who started out as our receptionist. She became so influential on the workplace uh, I'm looking for um, management standpoint and environmental and non-environmental standpoint, space planning,
Oh,
that
great.
she became very influential when we were doing expansions and stuff like that, that she became part of another organization even now, that she is now head of the workplace expansions and space planning for another organization. So yes, to answer the question, they have done very well because they have grown out of their positions because we believed in them, because they received the training, we believed in them, we've shown them that they can do it. And even when they stepped away from me, the people who they stepped in with, they saw that they had the ability and they continued to flourish under those individuals as well.
Those are really good skill sets to train people on because they are flexible and they're transportable.
Yes.
And it just as I'm hearing you talk about that, they seem to me to be listening skills and
Yes.
observation skills,
Mhm.
right? So that they actually are kind of learning on the job, even though that may not necessarily be their focus, but they're really aware of what's going on around them.
Right. And it wasn't something they originally started off with. It was originally what they envisioned that they would become.
Right.
Right. The person who was our receptionist, she was just glad not to not be selling retail jewelry any longer. And the person who started out as an on-site contractor, he was just glad to have a steady paycheck. So,
Okay.
so for him and both of them, they were just happy to be in an environment where they could flourish and they can move on.
You know what? That's such a really good comment to make because I think, at the crux of it, everyone requires and desires that kind of an organization, right? That
Mhm.
really invites them to get involved, to learn
Mhm.
so that they can thrive and actually enjoy what they're doing.
Right, right,
Is that
right.
is that a long term kind of training approach, or do people sort of gravitate to that more quickly?
Oh, it's definitely a long term. Because first of all, you have to get the people to first believe in themselves. Because many
Okay.
times people will say, oh, I can't do that. Or yet, I wouldn't put you in a situation where you're going to fail.
Right.
Trust me. And first of all, I never say trust me because that's wrong. Because first of all, I'd say I know you have more in you than what you've been given so far. And I get having them by giving them small wins, they realize that they have more to offer. That's one piece. So another company I work for, very conservative, and there was uh, this is a technician who was stuck, and there was actually several technicians who were stuck. And in order to make the jump, the salary packages would not allow for them to make the transition.
Okay. Yeah.
And right, so there was a administrative obstacle. So I had to overcome that first before I could even get him to a position where he was able to get to a point where he was able to lead his team. The moment I met him, I knew he had more in him. But he'd been told, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it because the pay won't make it happen. And when I said, well, that's administrative. You can always make changes to administrative changes. other than the first couple of months in that honeymoon stage where they, you can really push and they don't really give you a hard time. And I got that small win for him, and he was able to get that opportunity, and he moved forward.
Well, you know
And
what? I think that's such a good point because it's not just the people,
mhm,
individuals that you are coaching. You're actually coaching organizations to
right,
recognize how they can actually advance the expertise and then the goals in their company.
right, right, right. Sometimes the organization just um, doesn't have the ability. They've just been doing things for so many years and so many decades, and no one's asked a question. Well, I, right or wrong, and sometimes I've asked too many questions and the wrong people. And don't get wrong, this is not a perfect world. This is not where that every time I ask questions and people say, "Oh my God, thank God you're here. We love you, and we think that you should be out here forever and ever." That's not the case. But for some people, it's I've been helpful. Let's put it that way.
Well, I think in the end, change is very fearful for a lot of folks,
There
right?
is. It's
And
definitely.
so it is important to sort of lead them gently into it and
Mhm.
and show the benefits of taking certain pathways, right? To
Right, right.
differentiate and to grow and expand, right? So
Yeah, yeah. For a long time, and I mean, facility management is not typically a risk-taking industry. I mean, we're not looking. I mean, many people are growth mindset people, right? So
right.
they're looking to advance the organization. They're looking for operational efficiency. They're looking for the best for the organization. So they're looking for opportunities, but they're not looking to take a lot of risk to do it. So when someone feels that there's too much risk that could be happening, they will stop and try to curtail a little bit. But you got to you have to understand that that's where they're coming from and make sure that you're addressing that issue, right? So that there are some fixed mindset people and there's some growth mindset people, and you have to understand which people you're dealing with.
No, I'm glad you mentioned risk because that's a daily occurrence, actually, whether it's and it is shades of risk for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly now, I mean, there's so many different things going on in the world
Mm-hmm.
that really they need to be viewed through a risk and resilience lens.
Right,
Whether it's the climate impact on facilities or whether it's technology that's changing things. I can't really think of a situation that stays static where you just look at the risk once and you can solve it and it never changes.
yeah,
I've not ever
you're
seen
absolutely
that.
no, you're absolutely right. I mean, just because you solved it for today does not mean it's solved for tomorrow.
Right, right.
You may think it's solved for tomorrow, but you may put it away for today because you're looking at the next risk, right? And when we talk about facility management, we talk about the CFM designation, and
Right.
we talk about system thinking, right?
Right.
That's a big part of um, risk management is, how does what I do today going to impact tomorrow's situation? So that's a big part of what facility managers are doing. And so anytime you start to introduce things that are little outside the norm, you have to balance that when you start to think about, well, if I do this today, how will it impact for tomorrow?
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm a huge proponent of systems thinking, and
Mm-hmm.
and it's absolutely the direction for facility management because there's what 10 competencies in a CFM. That's a
Mm-hmm.
lot. That's a lot of knowledge. It's a lot of interaction.
Right.
And we know with buildings of complexity and campuses and changing things going on in buildings, the occupants themselves, like just think of
Right.
healthcare, that you change something here and it has effect on all kinds of other areas. So
Right.
it's really, really important in a systems thinking way to get the other folks in the room to have conversations about, okay, we're thinking of this or you're thinking of that. Let's take a look at the impacts that that can have and how we can coordinate these changes so that it
Right.
actually improves not only the building function, which of course is our focus, but so it improves a working situation for what it is that you do in this
Mhm.
physical environment.
Right. Right. I mean, I've often said that we're not just facility managers, we're change agents,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
absolutely.
For everything we do. Anytime we make any change, we're going to alter the way someone operates in the day when they walk in the door,
Yeah,
good or bad. You know,
that really demands collaboration to,
that's right.
to
That's
avoid the
absolutely right.
bad.
Right.
So,
And sometimes we have an opportunity to talk to them, sometimes we don't.
yeah,
And we do and hopefully we're doing the best we can to talk to our partners in HR or IT or security or senior management and asking the questions. Early in my career in facility management, sometimes, that's when I, made my biggest mistakes. I would, sometimes and you have so many things on your plate that you just want things awful, right? Right.
just clear the plate.
Just clear the plate. I'm moving on to the next thing. You're checking that.
Yeah.
And um, those were the things when I checked the plate, I'm getting this off I want to get it done. And those were the times, and I didn't check with other people. Those were the times I went down in flames
Hmm,
because I didn't spend enough time to ask enough people to ask the questions.
right.
I started in the legal industry. I'm, I'll give you an example. I was young in the industry, and in the legal industry back then, the size of the copiers, the location of the copiers, the functionality of the copiers, it was a big part of the legal industry. And I was told, you got to save money, you got to find ways to cut costs. And so I met with my copier company, and they're like, well, if you cut back on the size of them, you can reduce your costs, and that'll definitely cut your costs back. Well, that sounds like a great plan. So I pleased the finance people. Well, I made some of the administrative executive admins very unhappy. If they had pitchforks, they would have been right in front of my office that day. Um, and I had to reverse course very quickly because I made the mistake of not including them in the decision,
Yes.
and we had to make some changes very quickly. So that's where. So you do that a few times, and you learn. Don't do that. You got to keep the right people included.
You know that that's a foundational training thing. I've seen so much of that myself as well, but it really highlights the need to have team conversations so that
Mhm.
you can actually look at the entire system and
Mhm.
see what or get feedback on what might happen if you press here or press there, right? And I
Right.
find that so very much with and I have an MBA, so I'll say this, but I find that very much with accountants because accounting is looking in the rear view mirror and what happened in the past so I can
Right.
write it down,
Right.
and
Right.
it's very, very linear. And but I mean, certainly financial things are so important in organizations, but to look at
Mhm.
that in isolation, even when they think that they're doing great for the organization, they could be actually doing the opposite. They could be causing circumstance because of very narrow linear thinking that's
Mhm.
costing the organization a lot more money. So,
Right. I mean, I work for organizations where they would say to me, um, I said, well, can I see my budget? And they'd say, okay. And it would be 5 line items. And so, well, where's the detail? Well, it's right there. It says general maintenance. Okay. Well, where's it is for plumbing? Where's electrical? Where's snow removal? Where's this? Where's that? It's all in there. Well, how do I know how much I spent in snow removal last year? How much is it that they said, well, it costs too much to break it into different categories, right? To your point, they made a decision. It's impacting me because I can't get the information I need. So consequently, I can't make good decisions down the road to determine this. There's not enough information without me looking through thousands of lines of transactions and say, oh, here's a snow removal one, and here's a snow removal one. So by them making that decision, right, they made a short-sighted decision that benefits them without talking to me. It's very challenging, right?
I think we've all heard that story.
Right, right,
It's
right.
common between organizations, but it's such a good one because it does highlight the need on every front to actually sit down at a circular table and share this information back and forth. Likely good to have some excellent coffee there too, just so that it's a
Right,
friendly exchange. But it really does make everyone's life tons better because it
right.
just, gives everyone insight. It allows that
Mhm.
everyone knows their work actually impacts others and the organization, which I think is important. It's a belonging kind of feeling, I think.
Right. So I think probably one of the best collaborative story I have is when we were doing a build out for a new training environment.
Right?
And we took the time, we had the architects come in ahead of time and we interviewed the training teams, the coordinators, the trainers, anyone who would possibly touch the training team. And they came in and we spent 2, 3 hours with them, understanding, where should the whiteboard be? I'm back to
Right?
when we use whiteboards. Everything speakers, where should they be? How big should the rooms? How versatile? And we had the smoothest construction project. They were the happiest group of people when the project was finished because we met every one of the needs. We were not over budget. We knew exactly what we needed to do. They were delighted when the project was completed. We knew where suitcases should go when people were arriving. We had coat racks. We knew everything because we had sat down with them ahead of time and we had the project done on time.
That is probably one of the most important pieces of advice that you can offer to
Mhm.
how to do projects. That is
Right.
so critical. And
Mhm.
I've certainly observed in many organizations that that's kind of an afterthought.
Mhm.
So, yes, how to build success, get the right people involved at the right time.
Right. And we talk about collaboration from team standpoint, for your own teams. When you talk about team collaboration, it's not saying, this is what I believe. What do you think? That's not team collaboration because that's people are going to say, oh, yeah, that's exactly what, boss said, this is what we're doing. Yeah, this is what we're doing. Absolutely, this is what we're doing. That's not team collaboration. That's doing what the boss said. You got to do more gathered in from their standpoint. You have to create an environment where they're free to give you ideas. Their ideas may be better. You got to put your own ego aside and say, listen, I think this is where it should be, and let's and consider them. So that helps gather and develop the team from a collaboration standpoint. It's not just your ideas. It's how can you do it better for the team as a whole.
You know what? I so believe in what you're saying because I've seen so many problems with that gap. I think
Mhm.
you need to hire your firm for anyone starting it, wanting to start a project, not starting it, but wanting to start it, so
Right.
that you can assist them with this whole exercise. I mean, it's called gathering functional requirements, but
Mhm.
it's also, how people in that physical space need to interact with all kinds of situations and other people and so on. And that's so often missed. That's a calling,
Thank you. Thank you. And that's why we started this, because I recognize, especially in small and mid-sized companies,
right?
it's even more challenging to do it on a larger scale. But if you started with the small mid-sized companies, by the time they're bigger, they already have the makeup. And it's even more critical because when you make mistakes on a small mid-size, you can make big mistakes. And when you're small to mid-size, usually the CEO, the CFOs have handling a lot more, right?
Right.
And if the facility management team, whether it's one, two, or a half a person, can become a better partner by having a better team environment and become better partners with the C-suite, then the opportunities become just even greater for that organization. That's our ultimate goal, is to, by building a better team facility standpoint, we actually build a better team for the C-suite.
You know, and I'm really intrigued, happy that you're seeing this through the lens of facility management because they actually touch everything.
Mhm.
And I think there's an opportunity here for facility management to own the front end, to gather the functional requirements from occupants and how buildings need to function, but also to lay out the technology that's required to manage this facility over time. And that becomes part of the requirements of the project as well, so that, when construction is done, you don't get a stack of paper operations and maintenance manuals and a roll of drawings that get lost somewhere. So,
Right.
and that is a huge change, opportunity right now because of technology, that you can build into the project itself the need for technology
Correct.
and where it needs to be installed, if you want sensors for all kinds of equipment, access to equipment, and so on, that's a huge, huge great opportunity to
Yes,
state that clearly, right as part of the functional requirements for the project.
absolutely, absolutely. And I appreciate your endorsement earlier too. Thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a gap. I think that, and it's huge. I think that your company can go a long way to actually bridge that gap, quite
Thank
frankly.
you. I agree. I agree.
This is exciting. You've got
I'm
very, very exciting work going on.
absolutely. I think we can do some great things for a lot of small and mid-sized companies who need our assistance,
Yeah.
and we can grow a lot of great people.
Oh yeah, for sure. And just keep us informed on how projects are going because I think spreading the word about taking this approach is a good way to invite others to your success, so that they too can participate, know that it's not that onerous or difficult at all.
It isn't. It's really just doing what is best for the individual and for the company.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yep. Thank
Well, Jerry,
you.
this has been a really, really insightful conversation. I think that you're bringing a lot of good information and experience to this industry, facility management, and lots of opportunity for teams out there to actually seek to do better and have fun doing it.
Absolutely. I welcome the opportunities to talk to anybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerry. This has been
Look at our
fun.
website. Appreciate it.
Okay, take care.
Thank you too.